In 2023, investigators searching a forest in Kenya began uncovering mass graves linked to a preacher who told followers that starving themselves would lead them to Jesus. Across Africa, religion holds immense power. Churches fill stadiums. Prophets command massive followings. Millions of people place their hopes, fears, and futures in the hands of spiritual leaders. For many believers, these leaders are more than pastors. They are prophets, healers, men believed to speak directly with God. But history shows that spiritual authority can sometimes take a dangerous turn. Behind the sermons and miracles, some leaders built movements that demanded absolute loyalty. Followers are told to cut ties with families. Communities became isolated from the outside world, and in the most extreme cases, faith turned deadly. In Kenya, investigators uncovered hundreds of bodies in a forest linked to a preacher who told his followers that starvation would bring salvation. In South Africa, a controversial pastor made headlines after instructing church members to eat grass, drink petrol, and swallow live snakes during church services. And decades earlier in Uganda, a doomsday prophecy ended in one of the deadliest cult disasters in modern African history, where over 500 members were locked inside a church and burnt alive. This is the story of charismatic leaders, devoted followers, and the thin line between faith and control. This is Inside Africa's Cult Leaders. Throughout history, charismatic leaders have played powerful roles in shaping religious movements. Many begin as ordinary pastors or spiritual teachers, but over time, their influence grows. Their sermons become more compelling. Their prophecies attract attention. Stories of miracles spread quickly among followers. Eventually, these leaders are no longer seen as ordinary ministers. They are seen as individuals chosen by God. This is the type of authority that creates deep loyalty. Followers may begin to believe their leader has special insight into divine truth. In some movements, questioning the leader becomes impossible. Criticism from outsiders is dismissed as persecution, and slowly, the leader's authority expands beyond religion into every aspect of followers' lives: where they live, how they spend their money, who they interact with. In extreme cases, the leader becomes the ultimate authority over truth itself. These dynamics form the foundation of what experts often describe as cult structures. And Africa has witnessed several tragic examples of how such movements can unfold. In the late 1980s, a religious movement began to take shape in Uganda. The group called itself the Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments of God. It was led by two central figures, Joseph Kibwetere and Credonia Murinde. The movement claimed that its leaders had received visions from the Virgin Mary. According to their teachings, the world had become corrupt. Humanity had broken the Ten Commandments, and divine punishment was coming. Followers believed the end of the world was approaching. To prepare, they were instructed to live strictly according to biblical commandments. Their followers stopped speaking casually with outsiders. Some sold their possessions and moved to a place called Kanungu, an isolated community run by the group. Their daily life revolved around prayers, confession, and obedience. As the year 2000 approached, the group began predicting a specific date for the end of the world. March 17th in the year 2000 was the day. Followers were told that on this day, God would purify the earth and come for the chosen ones. But when the predicted apocalypse did not occur, tensions inside the group began to rise. Some members began to rebel. Those who started asking questions were slaughtered and buried. Soon afterward, a shocking tragedy unfolded. The leaders took matters into their hands and managed to lock over 500 church members, including children, and set the church on fire. Investigators later discovered mass graves on the church premises. It became one of the deadliest cult disasters ever recorded in history. The tragedy shocked Uganda and drew international attention to the dangers of unchecked spiritual authority. But it would not be the last time Africa confronted such a phenomenon. More than 2 decades later, another disturbing story began to emerge in Kenya. The central figure was a preacher named Paul Mackenzie. Mackenzie led a small religious movement known as the Good News International Church. He also started well. However, as time went by, his teachings became increasingly extreme. He warned followers that modern society was corrupt. Schools, governments, and mainstream churches were described as instruments of evil. Eventually, he encouraged followers to separate themselves from society completely. Some followers relocated to a remote area of woodland known as Shakahola forest. There, Mackenzie allegedly taught them that the fastest path to salvation was through fasting. Followers were told that starving themselves would allow them to meet Jesus. Families began isolating themselves deep inside the forest. Children were reportedly among those forced to participate in the fasting. When authorities eventually began investigating the area, they uncovered a disturbing discovery: mass graves hidden in the forest. The investigation became known as the Shakahola Forest Mass Grave Discovery. Search teams uncovered hundreds of bodies. Some of the victims were children. The tragedy shocked the entire region and triggered global headlines. Questions quickly emerged. How did one preacher gain such control over so many followers? And why were people willing to follow such extreme instructions? The answers often lie in the psychological dynamics of cult leadership. Would you starve yourself to death in order to meet Jesus Christ? If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Not all controversial religious movements involve isolated communities or doomsday prophecies. Some attract attention through dramatic displays during church services. One example is the controversial South African pastor Peniwell Nguni. Nguni gained international attention after videos from his church began circulating online. In these recordings, members were instructed to demonstrate their faith in many unusual ways. Some followers were told to eat grass. Others were instructed to swallow live snakes. In another controversial demonstration, congregants were reportedly encouraged to drink petrol. Supporters described these acts as demonstrations of supernatural power. Critics argued they were examples of manipulation and psychological pressure. The videos quickly sparked outrage and debate. Many observers asked the same question: why would anyone in their right state of mind participate in such act? But experts in group psychology say the answer may be more complex than it appears. Inside tightly controlled religious environments, followers often experience severe social pressure. Challenging the leader can mean rejection from the community. And when belief in divine authority is strong, followers may accept extreme instructions as acts of faith. The rise of cult leaders is not unique to Africa. Similar movements have appeared throughout history and across the world. But the dynamics behind them often follow similar patterns. First, there is the promise of certainty. In times of economic hardship or social instability, Charismatic leaders can offer simple answers to complex problems. Second, there is community. Many cult movements provide followers with a strong sense of belonging. Members may form close relationships and shared identities. 3. Members may be told what to wear and how to look. And finally, there is authority. When a leader claims to speak directly for God, questioning that authority can feel like questioning faith itself. These factors can combine to create powerful systems of loyalty, systems that sometimes place followers at risk. Faith is one of the most powerful forces in human society. For millions of people, religion offers comfort, meaning, and hope. But history shows that spiritual authority can also be abused. When leaders demand unquestioned obedience, when criticism is silenced, and when followers surrender their independence entirely, the results can be devastating. From doomsday cults to modern miracle churches, Africa's history contains powerful reminders of the risk that come with unchecked authority. And as long as people search for miracles, salvation, and answers to life's deepest questions, charismatic leaders will continue to rise. The challenge for societies everywhere is recognizing when faith becomes something darker, when belief turns into control, and when devotion becomes dangerous. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to see more of our future documentaries. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.